Welcome back in. Here we are on another lovely Sunday. It is a pretty chill morning around here, which is exactly how I like it. So I thought we would go on a nice adventure. This is a Wayfarer's Tale, and specifically, it is a Wayfarer's Tale: The Journey Begins. Now, this game has actually gone through several iterations now. It started out life as a humble little indie print and play game. Just a couple sheets of paper and a pen and rolling dice, your usual and flip and write kind of game, you know. And over time, it has become popular enough where it has evolved, and it's one of those things where the art really made it shine so brightly when it first got introduced to the world that it just was impossible to ignore, because it was just above and beyond what you normally see in an indie print and play game. And so the world kind of took notice, or at least the indie print and play world took notice. And we started playing it pretty heavily. I've only really, I think, ever played it once or twice, but I've noticed that it got really popular. And so because it did so well in the first iteration, first release of the game, the developers wisely, I think, said, well, okay, I think it's time to invest in this property and turn this into an actual boxed, produced version of the game, not just something that you download and print out, but something that you can actually buy from a publisher, or at least from us, and play in its fully produced form. So professionally produced cards and boards and so on. And in so doing, they did something that I think is, I don't think it gets enough praise. They moved away from marking everything with a pen, which seems like an obvious choice. It seems like maybe a natural progression, and maybe it is. But I think if we were to remove its history, and if you were to just take this game on its merits, with no one ever knowing anything about the game in the past, I think a lot of the people that have reviewed this game would have said, oh, cool, that's nice. That's a really cool, unique system. But instead what they said is, oh, okay, yeah, they just replaced this with a board and some cubes. And I don't think that's fair, because I think that's not the sum of its parts. I think the reality is it changes the game to not have to be marking everything off. I mean, yeah, in a way it's aesthetic, but in another way, you're tracking, in every board game you play these days, you're tracking something with a cube. There's no difference between that and this. You have a bunch of tracking that you're doing. And rather than having to spend a bunch of time with a pen marking everything off everywhere, they've replaced that with cubes. And I think it elevates the game. I think it actually changes the way the game feels when you play it. It actually feels like a full board game. It doesn't just feel like you got a glorified print and play. So I actually approach this and look at the game like this is a new elevated experience above and beyond its humble origins, and the art, really they just nailed it. And what I mean is, when they elevated that, what you're looking at here is the map side of the game, and I'll show you the other side in a minute. It's just really complicated looking at first, and I didn't want to overwhelm you as you first joined the stream or you hit play on the video. The map has icons on it, and we're going to be traveling around this map. We're trying to explore this map and visit all the towns that are on this map, and try to do so in a way that we don't get too injured too fast, or whatnot. So there's some hazards out in the world, and we've got to figure out how to navigate them. And we need to get the further along and the more maps you play, which, by the way, the deluxe edition comes with like 4 maps, I think, possibly more. I have to double check. And they each have their own level of complexity to them. I'm playing map 3 today because it is, I think a lot of the videos you see of this game, everybody's just playing map 1. and it's kind of like this easy intro way, but you don't get a chance to really see what's all in this game. You don't get a chance to really experience most of them, like not most, I would say some of the more complicated mechanics, because people are just showing off and just the base game, just showing off how the game works. So I took a different approach. I said, well, let's give you a flavor of what everything, mostly what's on offer. There's a bunch of variants and cards and components that help you manage those variants, um, that I'm going to use some of, but not all of, because I just don't want to overcomplicate things. But I didn't want to just do this straight vanilla game. So in the game, you're traveling around this map and exploring, and you're doing that using the capabilities of the people in your party. You're not just traveling alone. You're not just solo. You have party members. You have companions in your party that are all good at different things. Like you have a sailor, you have a merchant, you have a coachman, you have a guide, and you have an adventurer. Those are the companions that you have, and they're all good at traversing different types of terrain, and they all work a little different. They all function slightly different, so you have to kind of be navigating all of that. And then there are ways to mitigate bad dice rolls, like any good roll game. Any game with dice anymore these days, if it's really well designed, you're not just strictly stuck if you get a bad roll, as long as you planned accordingly. I mean, it's not just going to hand you the game, but it isn't just going to be completely unforgiving either. So what I mean by deluxification, though, is now I will click over to the other side of the board and show that off. And this is where the art of this game really shines too. So this is the other side. This is the secondary board. This is a dual layer board now. This isn't just a thin piece of cardstock. This is actually cardboard, and it's dual layer and dual layer art as well. And you're going to be placing cubes and dice out on this, special dice. They're like D12s. That track certain things, and so that's an example. There's also these, I believe these are like classes. I'll show them over here. I think these are like classes, and we're going to look at the book and see if we can figure out how to pick one of these and use one of these. But they all have a variable player power associated with them, which I think is really cool. So these are also thick dual layer. We place cubes on those as well. The dice, the cubes, the components, there's little town tokens. In fact, I need to actually give myself some to start. These little town tokens, so it's not all just writing things on a piece of paper. You do get some components that go out on the board, and I'll read and find out how many of these components I actually get. But here's an example of a town token. They look like that. When they're on the board, they're going to be standing like this in these spots. So you're not going to really see them. They're just going to look like probably brown cubes, but when they're laid down like that, they look like little townhouses, so you get a chance to see what they look like. But they're to represent the towns that you visited in the game, and you actually can spend them like resources, which is really cool. That's one of the other variants. I don't think it's a variant. It might be just a rule in the game. So let's see. So let's just take it around. I won't go into too much detail. I think you're going to see these in much more detail as I play. But up on top here, you have the coachman. And the coachman is good at visiting these two types of terrain. I think those mountains and grasslands, if I remember correctly. And there's rules around how you progress through this track. And if you can't meet those rules, or it gets harder and harder on you, the more you use the coachman to help you. But there's ways to manage the coachman as well. So merchant down here, desert and grassland, they're really good at traversing. And this is your typical fill out a row and a column situation, and you get some goodies, but you have to deal with some monsters along the way. So we might have to deal with some of that mitigation. The sailor over here, obviously, good at traversing water hexes. And so we'll work down her track as we use the sailor. And then you have the guide, and she's really good at, I believe that might be jungle. I'll double check. Jungle and desert. And she's looking for dice combinations of certain minimum values. And the adventurer, I think, is actually really thematic and cool, which is mountains and jungles. And he's actually looking to explore up and down mountain peaks. So the dice value has to go up as you go up the mountain and down as it goes down the mountain, and you're going to do that 3 times throughout the game, or at least you can do it 3 times throughout the game. And there are hazards to be overcome here, of course, but there's also riches. There's rewards to deal with as well. They're to gain rather. And this is where in the middle of the board here we track our re-rolls and our I think this is like, I'll have to double check what this icon is, but I think it's like treasure or something to that effect. And we're going to be gaining all of that. So back to the main board, or to the map, that now you start to understand what the color codes start to mean. These are jungles and deserts and mountains and grasslands and so on. So as we're progressing, as we're traveling around this map, we can't actually travel somewhere unless we can use one of our companions to help us do that. Up in the corner, we're playing the map 3, which is Many Heights, and it gives you some detail about this specific map. It says, this map contains sailboats, statues, high peaks, and thickets. For this map, all players may use the active die value at any time. Yeah, this is not just a solo game. This is also a multiplayer game if you want to play it that way. I'm playing it solo today, obviously, but there are robust rules for playing this multiplayer, which I think is really a nice advancement as well. Down here it gives you some stats about this map. There are 10 towns on this map. There are 3 taverns. Taverns are helpful. They give us little respites. And we also get to draw from the tavern deck, which is this deck of cards that you can't see. I'll put this down here so you can see that. My deck of cards is here. I'll scoot that over a little bit. This is my tavern deck. We're going to draw from that. There's 3 cards in here chosen randomly out of a deck of 6. So every game, what is available to you when you visit a tavern will be slightly different. And then, so we're going to be visiting up to 3 taverns. We have to visit 10 towns on this map if we are to succeed. And then there are 2 town cubes. I'm not 100% sure how those work. I'll have to look that up. This is a 3 difficulty map, so I'm not taking it easy on myself. It is what it is. We're going to see how it goes. I have to reach, in order to win, I have to reach 50 points, which is tracked on this board around the border. I start over here in the empty zeros section, and we move along this way. This purple cube up here is tracking my health. For map 3, we start at 19 health. If at any point I run out of health before the end of the game, I lose. So I have to do things to either gain more health or mitigate damage along the way, which is easier said than done. So I think that about covers it. Well, now we talk about how to play the game, but I think that makes more sense to do rather than tell. Quick notes about the rule books. Well, since we're here, this is the core rule book. I'll move over here. There we go. This is the core rule book. So far well done. It's I haven't really spent a lot of time with it, but as you can tell in the way they've laid it out, there's these blue sections, kind of tealy blue sections on the borders, and these just summarize the whole page. So you don't have to try to, like, if you're looking for something like specific, you can just consult these as you're flipping through the book, and you know that somewhere on this page is probably going to be your answer. So really, really well done. Very easy to get at what you're looking for. Praise them on that. And of course, the artwork is stunning, as always, on this game. And this is the solo campaign book. I should mention that we're playing map 3, which is technically a map that you'll encounter in a campaign of up to, I think it might be 8 games in a campaign. But the book does say you can play them kind of a la carte if you want, and that's what I'm choosing to do. So this kind of gives you the rundown of how solo is different from the main game, but it's also kind of explaining the very specific rules on the map that we're playing with. And in fact, it even says what to do. Starting health is 19, target score is 50, 3 solo cards, which I have, and scenario 3. Okay, yeah, great. Just want to make sure I met all of that. I did. So then let's talk about setup briefly and just make sure that I didn't miss anything. Tavern deck, we did all that. First player, right? Oh, right. Selecting starting town. Right. Okay, so we need to do that next. So as part of setup, we look at the towns that are on the map, and we can look through them in a bit more detail. I don't know why this has 4 through 6 on it. I think I might have to, oh, there it is. Roll one die, a d6, to determine their starting location. I see. Okay, so we will pull in the dice tray here, and we'll roll a die and just see what we get. Okay, so we're gonna, I believe we're gonna start in the 5 town, but we'll see. Let's see. Notice that certain towns are labeled with 1-2, 3-4, and 5-6. Recall that during setup, each player had placed a town token in the town's area of their player board to indicate that one town had been visited. All right, I hadn't done that yet, so let's go do that. So this is a town cube. We're just gonna knock that off. In fact, there are 12 town boxes on this board, and there are only 10 towns. So we're gonna mark that down. So that's 10 left to be visited, and we're gonna start in one of them. So we start in one, so now we have 9 left to visit. That is how we're gonna start the game. So there's our first starting set. Of course, there aren't a total of 12 on this map, so that's why 2 of them are already marked off. So back to the map. Let's figure out where we're going to start the game. It says look for the town that, you know, matches the number that you rolled. That's 4 through 6. That's 1 through 3. Where is... Don't stick me off on the corner. That would suck. I mean, it'd be fine, but where is it? Where is it? Oh, 1 through 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, got it. I'm smart. Okay, so this is our starting location. I'm just going to be fancy and draw a little hex around it to indicate our starting location. These markers, by the way, are included in the box. I often will use my own, but in this case I said, well, why not? This is already laminated. It's already ready to be used with this. Let's just use the included pen. So 4 through 6 is our starting town, and now we will branch out and explore from there. In our surrounding hexes are kind of important. I'm in a grassland hex now, but in order to move out, I have the option to travel through mountains down here. I don't know why I might do that. Jungles over here, grassland here, or desert on this side. So I'm going to be looking at my companions to help me understand, kind of to help me move through that terrain. So let's, first I want to look at these little character boards before we really move on. Because I want to make sure if we're going to use one or not, I'd like to make that decision before we start playing. Keep track during the game. Yeah. Okay. Yep. A town token. Oh, okay. Actually, this cube, let me move over so you can see that. This cube I added for the town we start in was actually supposed to be one of these brown tokens. So we'll put that up on top. Still the same number, but this is a token versus a cube, and the cube can't be spent, but the town tokens can be, and we'll talk about spending those as we come across that. But let's see, scooch that a tad. Is that going to mess with the map much? A little bit. Okay, well, we'll scooch it back. Okay, just a little housekeeping. Okay, now, so we have our starting thing. We don't have that. We'll get into movement in just a moment. There are our companions and how they work. Merchant, common hexes, end-game references. Okay, here we are. Traveling companions. If one of 5 traveling companions is drawn, what does that mean? Some tavern cards have an immediate effect. Some will apply in-game bonuses, and some will require additional components which are collected by the player who holds that card. So these are part of the tavern deck, which we're not going to be using these cards in the solo game. So unfortunately, I won't be able to show those off. That's kind of a bummer. If one of the 5 traveling companions is drawn, take the matching companion tile and required cubes or D12 marker, Read the flavor text on the card and follow the instructions on the tile. Okay. Well, I will quickly show them, and then I'll look for a variant later that lets me use these. This would be lovely to be able to play in the solo version of the game, but I'm not seeing rules for it. So unfortunately, I won't be able to. But for the sake of showing them on stream, there are cards that correspond with these tiles. And if you draw these cards when you visit a tavern, you then get this board and you get to resolve that. These are different companions that join your party. So these are aside from the core, what is that, 5 companions? Yeah, that you start with, that everybody has. These are unique companions that may join you. So this is the Charlatan, the Diplomat, the Globetrotter, the Mercenary, and the Nomad. So there you go. They all work differently. They all have different stuff, just like the regular ones, and they add additional flavor and variability to the game. So I'm hopeful that perhaps there is a variant that allows the solo players to enjoy those components as well. It's kind of silly if not. But again, I'm not trying to show everything off in the game, so it's okay that I didn't include them here. And I couldn't anyway, because there's no in the book rule for them. Let's see. Oh, there are some tokens I probably should include here. Okay, I have access to them. Okay. Now, what is next? Let's talk travel, because I think that's our first thing. So we're going to, on every turn in the game, we're going to roll dice, we're going to activate a companion, and then we're going to travel. And if you're playing the multiplayer game, all players explore their individual maps simultaneously. And there's a communal dice pool. So you're not, when one player rolls the dice, you're not pulling dice from the pool. You're all just looking at the dice values and deciding how you're going to use those dice. And then the active player has an additional die that only they get to use. And of course, active player moves around. Speaking of component quality real quick, I would be remiss if I didn't show these off. This is an example of just how deluxeified this game is. These are hard metal, kind of the same thing you would get in like coins, metal coins, except they're really thick. They're like absurdly luxe for what this game is, and I just applaud them for being that over the top. This was completely unnecessary. In the non-deluxe version of this game, these are just cardboard punch-outs. But in the deluxe version, these are like super heavy, weighty metal coins, basically, with this cutout in the middle. And when you're playing this in a multiplayer game, each player gets one of these, and the red die that's yours to use goes in that little slot, and the rest of the white dice are what everybody else uses. And you just each have one of these, and you put your red die in the box. That's the whole point of this component. And I mean, it's just silly. And I applaud them completely for that. So there's 4 of those in the box, and I'm making noise now. But, I didn't include them because there's no point. I'm playing solo, and there's no real reason to track the red die separately. But if there was, I'd pull them out. There's no value in having that token out. I would be remiss if I didn't show that off real quick before we start playing. So anyway, let's talk through the anatomy of a turn. We did that already. And I think we'll get into it. So quickly, there are some modifications to the rules for solo players. I'm going to need to make sure I keep those handy because I'm bound to forget them if I don't, because there's things that you gain, and there's ways that you roll the dice and use the dice that are just different. I should mention that whenever in the solo game you use the red die, see, there it is. Ooh, that was a long lag. That's annoying. What is happening there? Okay, I'll have to figure that out. But every time you use the red die, you deduct 1 health. And then if you have monsters, yes, it is buffering. I don't know why. It shouldn't be. In fact, the stream says it's fine. So I don't know. Anyway, might have just been a momentary blip in bandwidth. But anyway, so every time we use the red die, you deduct 1. And then if you're dealing with a monster, you also deduct what damage they do. So it's kind of a double whammy. So you have to be really careful about using the red die in the base game, in the solo game. So we only get 2 white die, and that's going to be our die combination. If we were like, oh God, I really, really just have to have this dice combination, but I have to use the red die, then you make a choice and you deduct the health. Yeah, okay. There are ways we can just choose to have something miss hitting us, but that we only get 3 of those throughout the whole game, and if we use all 3, the game is over. Yeah, okay. We'll get through the details as we go. But, yeah, scoring occurs when players activate specific companion spaces on the player board. Values used to activate gem spaces score positively, while those used from monster spaces score negatively. So you're going to lose points. Companions and scoring will be explained in detail later in the book. Play continues until someone visits every town on their map or crosses off their 3rd miss roll, which again is how we lose the game. In either case, the game ends immediately and final scores are tallied. Okay, so let's roll our first set of dice then, shall we? See what happens. Okay. We have, well, I guess we're doing 8. I don't have a choice there. Right, so it's 4 and 4. Now, if we look at our companions, what's happening there? Let's see if I could shift that slightly. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Okay. So if we look at our companions, we want to pick one of them that can help us move through the terrain that's adjacent to our current location. That is going to be, I think, all 4 types, except for water. So we can't use the sailor even if we wanted to, because we're not in a location where water is traversable near us. And we want an 8. Well, the coachman, we could use the coachman. There's plenty of places to travel where that works. Why I wouldn't want to do that is because you start here, and then every single time you use him again, you increment at least, not increment, you can either use the same number again or a higher number. So I wouldn't want to start at 8 because the die that you put in this space is a D12. So the highest they can go is 12, which makes sense because you're rolling 2d6 to determine its value. But you would want to start using the coachman at the lowest possible number, so you have a lot of headroom before you have to really start only, like, if I get that up to 10 or 11, I wouldn't be able to use the coachman unless I rolled a 10, like an 11 or 12, right? That's a lot. That's really, really hard to use the coachman. So you want to kind of leave your options open. I don't want to start at an 8. Merchant is another option. And if I go with an 8, I can mark off anywhere along this top row, which, is an option. The guide, there is desert, if we wanted to head the desert direction. But that would mean I'd have to start here. And that's technically at 5 or over, so that's an okay one to do. This is not a cumulative thing. This one's just individual requirements, but you have to do them in order. So the guide is an option, and so is the merchant. So adventurer, sure, but also they have to be ascending. So I'd have to get a 9 or a 10 or an 11 or 12 to move up this mountain with the adventurer. And there's no real value. I mean, he can help me with the jungle for sure, but so can the guide. So maybe we look at using the guide because if we look back on our map, we're here and there is a town way over here. but this is jungle and desert, exactly the things that a guide can help me traverse. So maybe we look at going this direction. If we look at travel for just a minute, this is where we're going to see the details of the situation here. It says, players travel around their islands 1 hex at a time, forming routes. A route is represented by drawing a line from one adjacent hex to the next. Moving from one hex to the next requires activating a companion who can access that specific type of terrain: mountains, grasslands, deserts, jungle, and water. For example, James moves south from his starting town. To do so, he must use either the merchant or the guide, because these are the 2 companions that have access to the desert terrain. To activate, James must satisfy the numerical conditions required on his chosen companion, and only then can he move 1 hex. From there, James has 2 options always. He can extend an existing route, or he can start a new one. If you extend a route, with his next move, James may choose to extend his route by traveling to an adjacent hex he has not already visited. In the example, James continues south through the desert, starting a new route instead. For turn 3, James abandons his progress south for the moment and instead chooses to start a new route. He activates the coachman, who allows him to travel on grassland and start a new northwest route from his starting town. Okay, interesting. So, what does that mean? Can you not turn? Oh, there we go. Players may only move 1 hex per turn. New routes may only start from towns. Routes may not fork at any location. Players may never revisit a hex they have previously visited. Okay. I don't see a rule in here that says you can't turn. It's just that you're going to do that on a later turn. So, okay. That's good. Yeah. Right. I don't see... the reason I'm even bringing that up is because at some point in one of the videos I was watching about this game, there was somebody who said you can't turn. You can only start new routes from towns, and you have to just move in a certain direction. I think that's not the case. I think you can move in a certain direction, yeah, but then at the end of that turn, you may pick a different direction for your next turn. So that's how I'm going to choose to play it. Because I don't see a rule in here that says you can't ever turn. That would be weird. Since it says you only ever move 1 hex per turn. Extend a route by traveling to any adjacent hex. Yeah, by traveling to any adjacent hex he has not already visited. That's just extending. Okay, yeah. That guy whoever I was watching misunderstood that, I think. So, all right. So here's what we're going to do. Back to the option. I think we're going to head over to this town for one of our first routes. And we want to get here. And I think we're going to just progress through this jungle. And to do that, we are going to use our guide. And the guide says you need at least a 5 to use this first space. I have 8, so I satisfied that requirement. I'm going to place one of my cubes on the guide. This just marks off that I've used that. And so we are going to come back over to the map, and we just draw our first route line straight through the jungle. So now we are on this jungle space, and our movement choices are to turn and go this way or continue. So I probably should just draw, now that I've done this once, I think I'm just going to draw to the center of the hex, and I can make my next route decision later. It's not very visible, that color, but that's all right. I could explain it because I can at least see it here. And it'll make more sense as these routes get bigger. Okay, so we did our companion activation, and then we did our travel. All right. And that's that. Then we roll again and keep going. This is going to get much harder as we go, I think, because my options are going to start getting limited by the companions. So now we roll again. Okay, so what I rolled is a 7, or if I want to use the red die, I can. What's handy is the next space on the guide is a 7 or higher. So we could use the guide again. I might actually. You can't use the merchant with a 7. Interesting. Or a 1 or a 2. Huh. That's fascinating. So I think our options really are just the guide, which is fine. I'll go ahead and move the guide. I'll go over here. I'll move the guide's cube over. I could just add more cubes, but I don't have a ton of them, so I'm going to assume I'm just supposed to track progress. Since it's a linear thing there, I think it's okay. So we're using the guide again to travel through this desert square or hex here. So I will just extend this line to the center of the desert there. Okay. Yeah, so let's look at these special icons. We have this leaf icon coming up, and I'm not 100% sure. That's a thicket, I think. Let's look at thickets and understand how they work. Yeah. Okay, those are quest markers. We're not using quest cards for this. So there are certain dots on this map for quests. These little like symbols, circles, and diamonds and whatever. There are cards in the tavern deck that we could be using, but the solo rules don't give you rules for them. Don't even indicate that you can be using them. It even says put the rest of the tavern cards aside. So I didn't use them here, so we're just going to treat those hexes as empty. We're just regular old hexes. All right. Where are we with those? There we are. High peaks and thickets. These hexes are harder to traverse and require both the following to be true. The use of the red die, which means I'm taking a hit point hit, and the companion pictured. Oh. So thickets, I have to use the guide to get through a thicket. That's what this says. Okay. Oh, it even says it right here on the map. Down here, thickets equal red die plus guide. Okay, good. Right. Learning the game as we play it. That's how we do it. So if we want to go here, we have to use the guide again, which I'm not too keen to do. I don't want to use the guide too many times so early. I'd like to spread it out a little bit. But we can. And if we do that, we have to use the red die and take a hit for it. And I'd rather not do that. So instead, I'm going to be looking to go to this grassland, which might be the merchant. So, all right, next turn. All right. Okay, another 8. Well, we can't use the guide even if we wanted to, because it's a 9 or higher for their next stop on their track. So here's the guide, and we're here right now. But if we want to go to this step, it has to be a 9 or higher. We rolled an 8. We could use the monster die and make that a 10, or the red die and make that a 10, but I don't want to take the extra hit point if I don't have to. Now let's look at the merchants. The first time we've used the merchant says, okay, I know about this. I don't want to score the merchant. I want to use the merchant. There we go. Can only be used to travel across grasslands and deserts. A nomad at heart, merchant roams freely and may complete his journey in any order so long as he adheres to the rules of his trade. Maximizing the merchant for scoring will be an important part of your overall strategy. As such, interesting dynamics come into play as you both seek to score and avoid monsters. To activate, the merchant requires a value that matches either the column or row labeled of the selected space. Oh, right, I get it. In this example, right. Oh, I see. So I can just put them anywhere I want on the row. Okay, got it. I just want to make sure. That's what it felt like. But so I have an 8. So for sake here, this is the row. This top row is the 8, and that's where we're going to put our first cube. It doesn't matter where I put it. Obviously, I'm trying to avoid monsters. I won't be fully able to avoid them if I want to collect the treasure, but I'm calling it treasure because I don't remember the actual term, but there is something I get if I complete a row or a column. But for now, I think I'm going to just go ahead and just put it in the 3 column. So we're on the 8 row, but we're in the 3 column. And now we can use the merchant to help us make this move. So we can use the grassland, which the merchant is skilled at navigating. And that is what we're going to do here. So we are going to extend this route from here down to here. Okay, got it. So now we're 1 step away from this town, which is good. Where are the taverns on this map? There they are. There's a tavern here. There is a tavern where? Where's the other taverns? Lots of towns. Not seeing the taverns. Oh, the tavern out here in the water? I love it. That's amazing. Okay. And there's a tavern here. Okay. So those are our 3 taverns. Nice. Right. Okay. Next. That is sideways. There we go. Right. Ooh, okay. A 2 and a 4. A 6, huh? Well, it's another grassland. We could use the merchant again. No harm in that. In fact, I think that's what we're going to do. So we're going to put our cube on the merchant. This time we'll go on the opposite side, and we'll put it on that end. That way we're avoiding monsters. But these extreme rows, the 3s and the 11s, are hard to get in terms of rolling. So I'm not limiting. I don't think I'm really limiting my options a whole lot by starting there. So that was that. So now we can just quickly move from here into this town, which we now have visited. Okay. So what happens when we visit a town? Do we get anything special? Taverns, travel. There we can start routes from towns. I know that, but I don't think we get anything for going to towns. While it's not essential to visit every single one to win the game, yes, it is. In a solo game, it is. I'm pretty sure. You must meet all of the objectives listed. Right. So you're right, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, the solo is a target score of 50, period. So visiting towns doesn't necessarily mean we win or lose. It just gives us more flexibility. So that's good to know. So going that way maybe wasn't the thing to do. That's all right, though. It was a good way to wake up and, try the game out a little bit. Statues. What do statues do? Oh, regardless of the map, the first player to visit all statues of one kind, receive the higher collection bonus. Collection bonus, hey? I like that. Oh, I see. In a solo game, do we get bonuses for that? We might. If it doesn't say we do, I'm going to take the highest value. Yeah. It doesn't say we don't get it, so I'm going to count that as an opportunity to score some points. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. These are statues. This one's the moon statue. This one's like an orb statue. Another moon is here. Another orb is here. This was like an idol-looking statue. There's another one here. I think there's only 2 each, near as I can tell. So I could go here, get this one, and then later come over here and get that one and score 6 points. That'd be good. Maybe I start a route here and I go up this way. Oh, but if I do that, I'm going to have to take a hit point by going through this thicket. I don't really want to do that. All right, well, maybe we can start a new route from our starting town instead. No harm in that. Okay. Ooh, it's a 7. Okay. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. I can't use the merchant. Merchant doesn't have a 7. I haven't used my coachman yet, but coachman's not going to help me in this situation. And I can't use the guide. That's not good. Not good at all. So I need a 9. Let me think about this. There is something we can do. We can spend towns, and we start with 1. So, spending towns is interesting. Let's find where they list it, though. Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, I visited another town. So we're going to put another one out here on the board. So we collected them. That was the other reason to maybe go do that, is you can spend towns to benefit you. Where are you, town? Where did I read that? I read it somewhere. Is it in here? Visiting taverns. Spending towns. As in the multiplayer game, track the number of towns visited by adding the town token to your player board each time you visit a new town. Unique to the solo adventure, however, is the ability to spend towns in 3 different ways, replacing them with your player cubes as you do so. So in other words, you're keeping track of the ones you've earned versus the ones that you have yet to spend. The 3 different ways you can spend a town are: before rolling your turn, you may spend 1 town to roll an additional white travel die. I've already rolled my turn, so that's not applicable here. After rolling, but before choosing your dice total, you may spend 2 towns to re-roll all the dice. After rolling, but before choosing your combined... Why is my network slow? Why? It's fine. Everything's all right. Oh, that's the camera. This is the camera freaking out again. Great. But before choosing your combined dice total, you may spend 1 town to increase or decrease 1 die value by 1. And I may repeat that. Well, if that were the case, I could get to the guide if I spend both of my towns on this one thing to get me from a 7 to a 9. I could do that. On the other hand, Coachman's not going to help. Well, Coachman might help me a little. Yeah, the Coachman would help me. So I could start the Coachman at a 4, and it would mean taking 1 hit point of damage, because I have to use the red die to do it. Because I rolled, to be specific, I rolled a 2, and a 5. The red die is a 2, so I could start the Coachman at a 4, which would give me a lot of headroom still. But he's only good at traveling through mountains and grassland. So if I look at my map, my starting town here, grassland is there. So that would work. Maybe I do that. And then I head this direction, and I can maybe get this shield reroll and branch off, maybe not branch off, but travel down and get this statue on my way to this town. I don't hate that. I could also come up here and use this to get to the tavern and then come over. So a good way to cross. Tricky. I'm not quite sure how I want to play this. This area is really tricky over here. But I think for the sake of now, we'll go ahead and use, excuse me, use the coachman to move onto this grassland space, start a new route. So to do that, we're going to come over here and we're going to take one of our two D12s and we're going to set this to 4, which is the value of the 2 dice that we're using. That's going to go in here. And we're going to decrease our hit points from 19 down to 18 in order to use the red die. So from here on out with the coachman, it's going to need to either stay at a 4 or increment up 1. So I'm going to try to only use 4s as much as I can with him, but that's going to be harder to accomplish. We'll see how that goes. Right. All righty. All right. Oh, I need to mark that on the map, don't I? So we're going to come here, down to the center of that. Right. Okay. We go again. Wow. A 1 on the red die and 2 6s, a 12. So technically the guide's in play if we want to. How does the sailor work? Are there rules, or do we just, is it just put a, use them one time sort of situation and it doesn't really matter? Right. Right. Oh, doubles. Well, this is an example of doubles, so this could actually work out perfectly. In order to activate, the sailor requires a value comprised of a doubles dice roll. There are no numerical restrictions between spaces other than this. Yeah. Okay. I think we're going to go ahead and do that then. We're going to go ahead and take advantage of the fact that I rolled doubles just now, right as I could use it. And we're going to use the sailor to travel here. Now, let's move back to the sailor and mark off the very first use of the sailor. Nice. Okay, we go again. Hmm, 8. Could use the merchant. I like it. Let's use the merchant again. So it's an 8. We'll go ahead and just put that there. And then we'll come back to our map. And we will come down here and get that moon statue. That's one of the 2. Unfortunately, we've kind of left ourselves a little bit, it's risky. Because now I'm kind of stuck. I have to get doubles to get off of the island that I'm on. Because I have to sail again. I didn't think about that ahead of time. Oh boy, here we go. Oh, come on now. All right, we got it. 2 4s. We're going to come here. I am lucky. Hello, welcome in. We're playing a little bit of A Wayfarer's Tale. All right, so our options now are jungle or jungle. So it's guide or adventurer. We haven't used the adventurer at all yet, so maybe that's the thing to do. Let's see how we roll. Not bad, not bad. Okay, we get doubles again, but we don't really need the C. But it could be a 6. And I think 6 is reasonable to use the adventurer for. So let's come over to the adventurer. Again, as a reminder, since we haven't used the adventurer, he likes to summit peaks. And there are 3 peaks on his track. And as you're heading up a peak, the values have to increase. And as you're heading down the peak, the values decrease again. And then you move on to the next peak and you do it again. So we're going to use our 2 3s, and we're going to start at 6. Because that's his starting value here for this climb up this peak. There we are. So from here on out, this has to be a 7 or higher, or this has to be an 8 or higher. I think we can achieve that. And that helps us move on to a jungle space. Now, let's look at these shield icons. This one here, I'm kind of curious whether I should go up that way or continue into there. I think I should take the shield icon. Shield and chests are visited in order to acquire the associated tokens that are so useful to the merchant. Visiting these hexes may take you off the most direct path, but ignore them at your peril. It is best to acquire these tools early. Shield tokens. When a player journeys to a shield hex, they immediately acquire and store a shield token, up to a total of 4. The shield guards the merchant from bad luck and can be used to re-roll a treasure or monster roll. Ooh. Spend 1 token and return it to the supply when you use it. Okay. Well, I guess we'll get to what monster and treasure rolls are when we get that far. So for the time being, I think we're going to go ahead and travel up to this and get ourselves our first shield token. To do that, we dig through this handy dandy box of goodness up here that they gave me. And we come over there. And this is our first shield token. We did that right there. Okay. We can spend that later when the time comes. All right, let's go again. Oh, nice low roll. That could be good. Except the coachman, he needs it to be 1 step higher than that to be a 4. Could use it as a 7 or an 8 and take a hit point damage, which I'd rather not do. So let's see if we can make do with a 3 anywhere. The merchant, I could use a merchant 3. All right, let's take a look. Merchant does let us transit grassland. I rolled here and you couldn't even see it. Here's what I rolled. And that's what we need to traverse right now. So now comes the hard question. Do I come up here and gain access to the ability to move across the water to this tavern? Or do I move here and go to the town and collect another town that we can then use to spend later to benefit us? Both are good. Taverns are going to be helpful because we get to turn over one of these cards and resolve it, and they're always good things. This is a tavern deck. It was built during setup. So taverns don't suck either. Plus, it does seem to be a jumping off point to get up to the other side of the map. Would be nice. But the other problem is if I don't take this town, I can't then start routes from this town. I think I better just get to the town, because if I can get to the town, I can start building more routes off of that town. And then I can come over here maybe and build a route to this tavern. I don't know though, because part of me is like, maybe I go up to the tavern, come down here, come back to the town, come back around here. That's a lot of traveling though. The worry I have is if I don't come here and then come here, I can't backtrack. You can never backtrack, and you can't ever visit locations you visited before. So I have to find contiguous routes to towns. So I'm like, if I come up here to the tavern and then come back down here, I'm giving up my ability to ever come back here and go up there. So it's a choice I have to make, and I make it one time. So part of me is like, maybe I go here, then come down here, and then go to this town, and then come down here, go to this tavern. But that means now I am stuck going all the way around. If I want to use this as a shortcut, I've got to do that now. The other option is I could come down here to this tavern, come up, come over to here, then come over to here and out. So it would be this little zigzag situation. I still have room to do that. And then I come over here. But then I'm giving up on all this town over here, this other idol, which is worth 8 if I can get the pair of them. Or maybe it doesn't just make sense to just go the long route and travel all the way through here. Make a circuitous path of it. I think that's really, I think, the smarter play. Let's get to this town and then just travel around. We'll just do, instead of using shortcuts, which is really attractive, let's just make this a circuit and see how far we get. Yeah, okay. So I rolled a 3, back to my current situation. I want to get to this town. We've decided that. We need to use a grass. I think we're going to use merchant, as we talked about. So we're going to come over here. Why are you being this way, you thing? There we go. All right. So we're going to use a 3. So we're going to put it in the 3 column there. I'm running out of hazard over there. Okay, well, trying to avoid these monsters. Let's see how far we get. And then we'll come back here and we'll go to the grasslands. So we'll go from here to there. All right, one step away from this city in the mountains, town in the mountains. Oh, okay, a 6. We do have room for the merchant to help us on a 6 there, but the merchant can't actually help us get to the mountains. Could use the coachman, but that's actually quite the step up. I'd like to make at least a 5. Okay, so here's the situation we're under, right? Trying not to use the red die. If I did take the red die, the 2 that help us move through the mountains are the coachman and the adventurer. If I use the adventurer, then this ticks up to a 6, and then I have to use 6s or more the rest of the time. I'd rather not do that if I can avoid it. I could spend a town to reduce the value of 1 die by 1. So I could reduce the 5 to a 4. That would move him from a 4 to a 5 instead, which would make him a little bit more useful. In order to use the guide, I could instead bump this up 1 and move the adventurer, so that it's a 7. Then this can climb the mountain 1 step. I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to burn one of my towns, this one, and I'm going to replace it with a cube. That's just to mark that I spent it. And we're going to change this 1 to a 2. Now we're going to take this and we're going to ascend the mountain. We're going to change this 6 to a 7 because that's the pair that we've chosen. And now he is 1 step higher up his mountain. And in so doing, he has helped us reach the mountain town. So we move to the mountain town. And I like to circle my towns because it reminds me that I visited them and how many there are. So now that I've visited another town, we get to add another town token to our list here. These are only utilities in this game. We don't actually get points for collecting towns or visiting a certain number of towns in the solo game, but they do let us use them to manipulate dice. So it is still valuable. So now our role is to get down here to this tavern. And then, we might take a hit point getting through this thicket, but I would love to be able to get to this statue, so that might be worth it. The handy thing is now we can start routes off of this town if we want to. More flexibility. fewer ways to lose the game. Okay. All right. Let's see. Which direction do I want to go? Probably going to be mountain or jungle. Looks like it's going to have to be. So if I'm here, I'm in this town right now. It could be mountain or jungle if I'm moving on this way. And I want to get to this town. Let's see how we roll, and we see who makes sense to use. Okay, it is a 9. So we want mountains or jungle. And that means we are going to be going with either the guide or the adventurer or the coachman. Since we rolled a 9, the ascent of the adventurer, I think, is the way to go. Because then we get to our first, I think this is a gem location? I forget what they call it. This is a good thing. It's an award we get. I think this scores us points, which we desperately need. We have none right now. So that's going to be what we do, I think. We're going to take the 7 up to a 9. We have now summited this first peak with a 9, and now it's going to decrease as we come down the other side of that mountain. But this is our first gem location. I think that's what we're calling it. We'll find out what the book calls it in just a moment. Aha. Scoring occurs when players activate specific companion spaces on the player board. Values used to activate gem spaces score positively, while those used for monster spaces score negatively. Companions and scoring will be explained in detail shortly. Okay. So that means that I scored 9 points because I used a 9 to activate that. Is that what that's telling me? That's what that occurs to me. Let's see. Scoring reminder. For all companions other than the merchant, when a player places a cube or marker over a gem space, they score points equal to the summed dice value they used to reach that space. So yes. Okay, we get 9 points. I think that was a pretty good choice. On our board, we go from 0 to 9. We got our first points on the board. Not bad. All right. We could have scored a total of 12, but I mean, take pretty good points when you can get them. Right. So he helped us go through the mountains or the jungle. I'm going to go through the mountains because that gives us 2 different valuable options that move us closer to this tavern. So we're going to go that way. It's going to be looking like this. We're going to go from here to there. Now we can either go here or here and still get closer to the tavern. Okay, so let's roll. Red die. Okay. So we rolled a 4 and a 1. That's a 5. We could technically go down the other side of the mountain with the adventurer, but that would be from a 9 to a 5, so that's pushing it a little. We need a jungle or a grassland, and we rolled a 5. We can put it on the merchant in the 5 column here. Plenty of room there. We rolled a 5, so we could just advance the coachman from 4 to 5, move him along. He's 1 closer to scoring that way. That doesn't suck. Could burn a town to drop that to a 4 just to keep my options open, but that seems kind of like a waste when I don't really need to right now. Yeah, let's move the coachman along. Let's get closer to scoring on the coachman. So we're going to go from 4 to 5 on the coachman die, and it moves down the track 1 step. And as a reminder, the coachman always increases as it moves along, or stays flat. You can always use another 5 to move it another step, but you can never decrease that die value, and it goes to 12. So he only gets harder to use. Okay, grassland it is. So back to the map. We're going to come down here to this grassland. Okay, jungle next to open our first tavern, because we're going to try to open taverns along the way, because who doesn't like a tavern? Okay. Ooh, snake eyes. That's nice. I wish I could use a sailor right now. Doubles. 2, huh? Ooh. Jungle. We certainly can't use the guide. Because it needs a 9 or higher. I could burn a town to re-roll all the dice. That's what the book says, right? One of the options I can do is to re-roll everything. 2 towns. I have to burn 2 towns to re-roll all the dice. I'd rather not do that. Could re-roll 1 and see if I can't pair that with that 6 for something higher than a 9 or 9 or higher. And then I could use the guide and get some scoring out of it. Yeah, I think I'm going to burn 1 town. We're going to burn 1 town, and we're going to re-roll 1 die. So 1 and a 6. Of course, it would help if I actually hit the dice tray. Are you kidding me? Okay, I guess it's a 1. No re-rolls for me. I don't want to burn another town to do that. I don't have very many, and they're hard to get. Do I have a choice? I might have to score my first miss here. I don't want to use the adventurer, because that would take it, well, that's not true. I could use it, take a hit point loss. I can go from 9 to 7, come down the hill that way. Yeah, all right, fine, let's do that. We're going to go to the adventurer. We're going to go from 9 to 7 down the mountain. And then I get to use his traversing of jungle to help me along my way here. So from here to here, we get our first tavern. All right, let's talk tavern, because this is our first tavern we've opened on our journey. Opening taverns. All right. At the start of the game, the coachman's progress is constrained. Closed taverns, denoted by a red X on the player board, must be opened by visiting a tavern hex on the map. In order to open both taverns, 2 taverns hexes must be visited. So it wasn't just, hey, this is nice, but I can only use the coachman so many times before he demands a tavern. So I have 2 of those I have to clear. I have to basically visit at least 2 taverns in order to fully use the coachman. Right, is that it? Let's see. In this illustration, a value of 7 is used to pass through, and because it happens to be a monster space, incurs a scoring penalty. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, got it. Okay, so this was not something I get to score, but it is something that helps me keep using the coachman, which is super valuable. So, because we opened a tavern, we get to come here and look at the coachman. It says, oh, tavern, red X. So I can't move into the space until I have filled this by opening a tavern. Well, I just opened a tavern. So his first clearance is now achieved. Now we can use the coachman all the way to this next X, unless I visit another tavern, and then we'll be able to use him again. But there's plenty of room left in the game to use him. I've only used him twice. So that's great, though. We needed that. Okay, so now back to the map. What do we want to do next? We could head north and go out this and use the shortcut like we talked about, but we're not going to do that. We're going to make this a circuit route. So instead, I think I'm going to head through this thicket, which is going to make me spend a hit point, and I have to use the guide, which sucks, but maybe we'll get lucky on a die roll. And that will let me access this statue along the way. I should get over here to this town too, but I'm going to end up taking another hit point loss in order to do that. These are both treacherous. This thicket is treacherous, and so is that mountain, and it's gonna hurt us to travel through there. But I want to. Because I want this town. I want another town token, and I want to be able to jump off from this town. All right, we'll see how we roll. Let's see how we roll. All right, here we go. Okay, rolling low again. That's not good. So we have a 4 for free, or if we want to take a health hit, we can use the 4 and make that a 7 or a 5. So I think if we're looking at 4s and we have to move through jungle. So our only option here is to use the guide or the adventurer. Well, we need to use the guide, but I can't get to 9. I only have at best a 7 unless I spend a die to reroll and I get lucky on the reroll. I already have a 3, so I would need a 4, 5. Let's see, what would that be? I would need at least a 5. Yikes. That's not a good, those odds aren't good to use the guide right there. So instead, we could use this as a 4 and come down the back of this peak for the adventurer. Use that for the jungle, and then use the sailor maybe to get through that water. That's tricky though, because you need doubles to do that. But it moves the adventurer along, and that's not a bad thing. So I think it's the adventurer. We're going to take the 7 down to a 4. But he's just finished exploring his first peak. So that's not bad. All right. So we're going to go up here instead, which is not ideal, but it is what it is. And we'll see how we roll next. Oh, a 9. Exactly what we need for the guide. Do I just backtrack? No, I'll start a new route. That's what I'll do. I'll start a new route. Okay, so we're going to use the guide finally, and we're going to get some treasure out of it too. So I guess finally get to score some points. So 9 or higher. We rolled a 9. So we're going to move in here, and now because we used a 9 to move in here, we score 9 points. So we're at 9 points now, so that puts us at 18 points. That's great. And the guide lets us start a new route using the purple ability there, the ability to move through jungle. So we're going to cross this thicket from this town. That is a legal move to start a new route. And this means now, though, that we can extend this route or this route from this town at our next move, whichever we want to do. I want to go here if I can, though. A 7. That's looking pretty good. Let's see who we have to help us with the 7 here. Can't use the merchant because we don't have a 7 on the merchant chart. It's not an option. The only option left to us is the coachman, but I don't want to take him from a 5 to a 7. That limits him way too much. So I could spend a town to bump that 3 to a 4, which would make it doubles, and I can use the water instead. That's an option. We're not far from another town. We can get another token, another town token, soon enough. I don't exactly hate it. Not thrilled with it, but I don't hate it. What do I want to do here? Let's come back to the map so you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm here, and I could spend a die to manipulate and let me use this space with the sailor. Would put the sailor one step away from generating more points for us. Not a bad thing. Or we could decrease that to a 6 and use the coachman, which would score, but it would only be a 6. Not great. I'd like to use the coachman at a 5 for at least a little while. That would be nice. Because he's not, I don't want to get that die too high too early. It's not good either way. The other option is the merchant. Is we don't have a 7, but we do have a 6 or an 8. So I could drop the, I guess I could take the wound and use the die as a 4 maybe. 4 or a 5. 5. Yeah. I think this is an opportunity to use the hit points. I hate to do it, but we're going to take our health down to 17 and we're going to turn, we're going to move over here and we're going to look at these dice and we have, we're going to use it as a 5. This 4 and a 1. We use the red die, which caused us to decrease our hit points, but we're going to take it as a 5. And what that does is we can now use the merchant as a 5 in the 5 column here. Yeah. Okay, so since we're doing it that way, we're going to use the merchant for his grassland traversal. And we're going to come over here and we're going to hit our next statue. So now we have one of 2 pairings. We have 2 halves of 2 pairings. So that's pretty good. We need to find the other 2, the matching 2 as we go. One's way over here, which is not fun. I could technically come after it by going up this way with a route from this town, though. So that's not out of the question. I could come this way and open a route at this town here and then go up that way. Or start a route from here and go to that town. There's always options. Interesting. Interesting. Right. I feel like the walls are closing in a bit on our flexibility with our companions, though. The game's getting trickier. Deceptive. It feels easy, but it's not. Okay, let's move on. We're doing good so far. Okay, 5 and 2. So it's a 7. The guide could help us here, except that its next step is a 10 or higher. That's going to be hard. We don't have the ability to use the merchant here because it doesn't have a 7. I could start the adventurer. I can start his next peak with whatever value I want, but if I started at a 7, that means I have to go 8 through 12 and then 9 through 12, right? So I'm kind of cutting the die in half for its growth. But on the other hand, I want this value to be as high as possible, I think. I don't exactly know how monsters work. Because I want this value to be high when I reach it. And it'll be descending down the hill. Let's look at monsters, because that's going to tell me how to treat that monster die when we reach it. Oh. I lose points for monsters, so you want that number to be as low as possible. That's why this is down here, because if you want to take fewer points, you're going to gain fewer points at the end. So like if I came in here with a 7, then this would be at max worth 5. So I would lose 7, gain 5. So I'd be at a -2. But look at this one. This is monster. So I'm going to lose points. So I'm going to want this to be like a 2, and then this be like a 3, and then this be like a 12, because it's a ×2. So it's an opportunity to kind of offset some point loss if you really use the adventurer to great effect here at the end. Because there's a rare ×2. There's only a few of them on the board. There's a ×2 over here. So that's at the end of the coachman's track, like way hard to get to. So back to the question. Do we use this as a 7? I think we do. That means that this minimally will be a 9-point loss. We have to be careful with that. I don't really want to take another hit point loss to make it lower. What other option do we have? Well, we need the adventurer to traverse that mountain space. We're going to take a hit point just for doing that anyway. So I think we just do it. I think we take this as a 7. I hate to do that, but it's the best choice I think we have right now. So start of the second peak is a 7. And we're going to use him to travel the mountains, which we have to do because this is a peak. And that's going to cause us to take a damage. So this 17 goes to a 16. And we move into this peak location here. But we are one step from that town. So that's good. So hopefully we roll high. We roll like an 8. Another, yeah, an 8 would be good. That would be super good if we could. Oh, we rolled a 6 instead. Okay. The coachman could be used at a 6. That would be worth 6 points at least. Yeah, let's do that. I think the coachman's the way to go. We're going to take this 5 to a 6. So now we get 6 points. We're at 18. So what is that? Let's do the math, Bob. 24. There we go. There we go. Not too bad for early game for the coachman. And we get to use him for his mountain traversal ability. So back to the map. And we go up to our next town. And we get another town token. Huzzah. Cool. So put our town token over here, getting ourselves some more utility. Except I can't manipulate tokens today, apparently. There we go. 2 town tokens. Cool. Now we have to use mountains to get out of the town again, or we can use mountains to come up here. But either way, let's look at treasure, because I don't quite know why I would spend my time going to get treasure. Treasure, treasure, treasure. Ah, here we are. What do I get treasure for? Or thereby triggering a treasure roll. In each case, the blue die, a d6, rolls are performed immediately after cube placement, and the resulting score is added or subtracted to the score track. So in a case of a treasure roll, it is added. So this would give me ×2 whatever I rolled, and I have a shield reroll to let me do that reroll once. So I could get up to 12 points, essentially, by going to that treasure space. Okay. Seems worth doing. I think I'm going to, you know what I'm talking about is this treasure space here. I think I'm going to ignore this third idol. I'd have to traverse 2 treacherous terrain pieces in order to do it. And I feel like it's just not going to be worth it. I mean, it'd be nice to get the extra 8 points if I can get the other pair. I don't know. I don't know. What do I want to do? Well, regardless of what I do, I'm going to need mountains next, because even if I extend this route here, it's mountains. If I start a new route from here, I guess I could do that with desert. Yeah, desert would help. All right, well, let's see. I need a 10 or higher for a guide, though. It's going to be tough. 7 or 6, rather. Could go 8 with the damage die, but if I do that, if I do the 8, I could go and use the adventurer. That would put the 7 to an 8, take the damage. Or I could use the coachman. But what good is that? Oh, he's mountains. I could use the coachman and just move him along a step at a 6. That's the thing to do. Yeah, that's the thing to do. Coachman stays at a 6 and moves along. He can always stay flat and move. And now the question on the map is, do I come here? Like right here, then go up that way, or do I extend this route here? But if I do that, I get rid of my opportunity to use this tavern. So this is an option. If I come out here, I can still make it over here and then backtrack and go this way. Yeah, I think we're going to come out here. We're going to come out here to this location there. I'd love to go this way into the desert if we can get a merchant or a guide to help us do that. Let's see how that happens here. 7 again. Can't use the merchant on the 7. Could use the doubles to traverse the water somewhere. No, it doesn't really work, does it? 7, okay. I don't want to move the coachman up to a 7 if I don't have to. The adventurer has to climb. I could burn a town to bump the adventurer to an 8 without taking any damage. And if I do that, what would that get me? I could instead use the 8 with the merchant instead. It'd be my last 8 without having to fight a monster. That would give me a desert. Okay. If we want to get to this ×2 for the adventurer, we should try to prioritize using that adventurer. But we need I think right now desert is the better move. So I think we are going to spend a town to bump it to an 8. We are going to do that. So we're going to spend this town. We're going to take this 5 and 2 that we've got and turn this 2 into a 3, like that. So now we have a 5 and a 3 instead of a 5 and a 2, which is an 8, which we will now use to have the merchant help us through the desert. That's our last free 8 on that row. So to the map, we go this way. And now we're one step away from a ×2 treasure roll. Okay. Yeah, let's roll it again. Not the best roll for this, I think. Yeah, it's not great. Can't use the merchant for it. I could spend my last town to bump that to a 10, and then I have to take a hit point for it too, because I have to use the red die. Then I could use the guide. That's a lot. Or I could just reduce that to a 6 and use the merchant again. I keep rolling 7s. It's killing me. I could take it as a 9. No harm in that. Just as it is, and take a hit point for it. Then I'm not burning a town. I think that's what I'll do. I'm probably playing a little fast and loose with my hit points. So we're going to go from 16 to 15. And we're going to take it as a 9. And then we're going to hire the merchant and put that as a 9. Not hire the merchant, but have him help us out here. And we're going to do a ×2 treasure roll on the map. From here to here. Okay, let's find out. I think if I'm reading this right, we come here, we roll the special blue die. It's a 3. Now, do I want to burn my shield token to re-roll that? Because that's only 6 points if I take that as a 3. I think I do. I'm probably going to regret that. But I'm burning my shield token and I'm going to re-roll the blue die. 6. It was almost a 1. Okay, so now is a ×2 treasure. Now that's weird though, because it's a 6. I would be 12, but I have a place on the board that gives me a ×2 chest. So why is there a place on the board for that? Do I just collect them and use them later? Is that how this works? Where do we see those and why do we see those? There we are. Described above. When a player journeys to a chest hex, they immediately acquire and store a chest token up to a total of 4. To improve a treasure roll, spend 1 token to double the score for that roll. Oh. Okay, well, I did that wrong. I'm taking my chest, my reroll back because I didn't actually use it. And I get a 2x token instead. So that's how that works. I didn't actually roll the 6 because I didn't actually collect any treasure. I only collect treasure when, like, say, for example, I complete this row or this column on the merchant and I get a treasure there. Or if I, where else is a good example of when I would get treasure? Is that it? It's only the merchant? Probably only the merchant, which is why it's stored here. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to have to, if I want any of these treasures, I'm going to have to face off against a monster to do it. All right, well, we have the ability to re-roll both the treasure and I get to double up my treasure value with one of those tokens. So we're doing good. We've unlocked some good stuff. Moving back along. Now, what do we want to do? It's looking like mountains because we want to go this way, generally. We also could go up here and go to this tavern. We need to visit at least one more tavern. The other option is we can kick off a route through the desert over there. So we have choices. Let's see how we roll, and we'll let the dice tell us where we're going. Oh, water, looks like. I wish we could. There's not real value in doing water, but we rolled snake eyes, so 2. We can't use the merchant with a 2. We can't use the guide, it's too small. We can't ascend the mountain with the adventurer, and we can't use the coachman because it's lower than a 6. So we might use the sailor just because we can. It doesn't get us farther along our journey, but it means we don't have to take a miss either. Here's what I'm talking about. There's no town that I'm in that I've already visited where I can start a new route that just immediately dumps me into water where I can use the sailor. The only place where I have immediate access to water is this one little lake right here. And there's no value in going there normally. I could just go straight up to this mountain if I could figure out a way to use somebody that helps me traverse mountains, but I didn't get the roll for that. Nowhere close. And not for nothing, if we do use the sailor, that puts her one step away from giving us a score. We've only used her one time. So, there's value in doing that, I guess, but it doesn't really move us along our journey any. The alternative, though, is we can't make a valid move, and then we have to take a miss, and I don't want to do that. So we're going to use the sailor for our snake eyes, and we're going to go 1, and that means I must extend this route from here to here. The upside there is I guess we're still on our journey out to this tavern. So we'll roll again and see if we can manage to make a better roll for ourselves for the mountains. That's better. It's a 9. That's good. I can probably use the town, my only town left, to up that to a 10, which will let me use the guide. That doesn't help me in mountains, actually. I could technically mean, ooh, Lord. I could take it as a hit point, though, because I got the red die is a 3. So I could take that as a 6, which would let me use the coachman without having to advance the die, but it would mean taking a hit point. I think that's what I'm going to do. Yep. Hit points go down to 14. 6 moves along. We now can move through the mountains. That town is a long way away. Am I gaining anything? There's a bunch of towns up there. Maybe it makes sense. To use the shortcut. Okay, here's what I'm talking about. So if I decide to go this route and I skip, even if I skip this idol and I just walk past it, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 just to get to another town. On the other hand, if I go here through the mountains and then I sail to the tavern and then I sail over to this jungle hex, then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to that town, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to that town. Not bad. It's shorter, but not by much, really. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's only one step further to go the other route. The other option, I guess, is it's a 9. I could use it as a 9 and start a desert route out of here. I couldn't do it with that though, because I'd need the merchant, or sorry, the guide to do this square. I could do it out of here though. Could start here. That could lead over there if I wanted to, or I could go across the water, go to this town. That doesn't suck. I'm out of places to use another snake eyes if I get one, so I think I am. I'm going to use that as a 9, and I'm going to use the merchant to do it, and I'm going to go up to this hex here. That's a route we can extend off of now. And so over there, we're going to mark off this 9. Again, it's another 9 that we can't access unless we fight. But what's fun is if I can fill this up, we'll fight one monster, but then be able to open 2 chests and keep doing that over and over again. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Ooh, an 8, which we can use. Would have to be fighting a monster to do it. I'd rather not. Or I could use it as an 11. Could use the 8 though for the adventurer, which is what I should do. And I need it to cross the mountains. So yeah, we'll just do that. We're going to go to the adventurer. I'm not going to think too hard on that one. We're going to go 8. And now he's almost to the summit of that second peak. And he's helped us cross the mountains. I'm sitting here thinking about, should I go that direction or should I go to the tavern? Like we talked about. I think we go to the tavern. We're running out of time. So we're going to go here instead. Right. Yeah. Now we're one step away. If we can get snake eyes, we'll get one step away from opening that second tavern, which will help us with the coachman. Not snake eyes, but doubles. So that's 12. Okay, we have a choice to make. We could use the adventurer and bump this straight to a 12. But if I do that, I'm taking 12 points. I'm losing 12 points in score. I'm at 24 now, so it's cutting my points in half. But what that does let me do is potentially get 10 of them back and gets me to the start of this third peak where I could potentially get to that ×2 treasure by the end of the game. So I'd be losing a net of 2 points if I can get it to a 10 by the time it reaches there. If that's hard to say because I haven't been rolling 10s almost at all. So I don't know that I really feel strongly about doing that. I could take it the 12 as a 10 or higher, and you finally get past this guide. That would not suck. Or I do take it as a sailor, and that would be 12 points because it's double 6s. That's what I'm going to do. I have no choice, but that's a dumb move not to take it as points. So we're going to take the sailor, double 6s, 12 points. That puts us at 36 points. Thank you. Right. Okay. 36 points, and we get to sail. I'm going to go from this dock out to this tavern. That's awesome. And we've been circling taverns, so we'll just go ahead and do that as a reminder that we've been there. So, as a reminder with taverns, we have now unlocked the caravan, or the coachman rather, to be able to complete his full journey and get us to that ×2. We've unlocked the second tavern. We no longer have to prioritize taverns. There's no other value to them in the solo game that I'm aware of. But more importantly, we can now use this to our jumping off point into the jungle and move along here. I may just keep this route open and do a bunch of organic route stuff over on this end, and then use this jumping off point to also progress into here. That's probably the thing to do. Rather than using this to go up into this town, I could use it to just move on immediately. You can't see that. So this is the route that's kind of the lazy route over to this corner where there's towns and some other stuff. There's also this shortcut, which would let me continue on this way. And I'm going to probably just do that. I'm going to just take this shortcut up to here and then immediately move on into this area so that this route can just immediately, meander up that way. Yeah, I like it. Plus, we did have the start of this route here as well. Cool. For the record, I could have used the sailor there as well. That would have been legal. And then I would have been a step away from that town. But I chose the tavern, and I'm fine with that. Okay, moving on. Five. Could take the merchant. That's an option. Didn't get the roll for the guide, so we can't use the jungle there. If we use the merchant for the desert, we could come up here and try to get another shield token for later. But what that would do is sacrifice my easy access to this town. I really don't want to do that. Could burn my last town token to make that double 3s and sail there instead. But if I'm going to do double 3s, I could also use that as a 6 and use the coachman. The coachman would let me go here. That'd be okay. Not great, though. I need high rolls right now, and I'm not getting them. That is tricky. Well, okay. I think I'm going to burn it as the sailor so that I can get another town token quickly. And that opens up this area. If I can get this other orb, I get 10 points, this orb statue. So that's also good. And this town would let me open up multiple routes out as well. I think this is the better play. Okay. I hate burning my town tokens for something like that, but it is what it is. So we're going to burn my last town token. And we're going to convert that 2 into a 3, which gets it to be doubles. So I use the sailor. And on the map, then I sail from here to here. Gets more. Now we're one step away from that jungle town. Backing myself into a corner. Need high rolls. High rolls now. High rolls. That's not a high roll. That's a 5. Okay. Or a 7. How do I want to do this? I could use it as a 7, take a hit point, and then hire the coachman to get me through the mountains. Can't use the guide because it needs a 10 or higher. It's a 5, so I could hire the merchant. And that really wouldn't get me much other than starting another route in the desert over to that shield token, which, okay, fine, but not super valuable. no matter what I do, I can't really go through the jungle right now, and I'm kind of getting stuck by that. Grassland? Do I have any grassland? Nope. Grassland options. Take it as a 7. Coachman Mountains. Yeah. Okay. 7 it is. Yeah. All right. 7. Ugh. Hateful. All right. Coachman. 6 to a 7. And then mountain traversal. So we're going to go from here to here. That was a hit point. Down to 13. Okay. That's an 8. I don't have the town die, so I can't, or town token, so I can't increase that 2 to a 3. I don't really have sailing options, and although I want to, so that is an 8. Full on, and I need at least a 9 to go the adventurer. What do I want to do here? I'm just getting stuck by jungle. Yikes. Nowhere, everywhere I go, it's all jungle all day. I need jungle there. I need jungle here. I need jungle here. The only thing I can do is start out this way towards this shield. And I'd have to do it from here. I can't branch off. There's no branching. So I'd have to go here, then here, then here. And if I took it as an 8, it would be a monster fight. Let's look at that. What does that mean for the merchant specifically when there is a monster? Because I think there's a special thing to think about there. Yeah, okay. Right, okay. In this catch-all example, James uses a value of 4 to simultaneously complete a full row, a full column, and incur a monster hit. After placing his cube, he'll make 3 consecutive rolls using the blue die. Monster rolls precede treasure rolls by convention. James rolls a 5 for his monster roll, followed by a 4 and then a 1 for his true treasure rolls. His net score for this turn is therefore -5 plus 4 plus 1 equals 0. Luckily, there are means to alter one's fate, shields and chests on the following page. Yeah, okay. Okay, so it's just 1-to-1. It isn't like a special deal, but yeah, okay. So if I took it as an 8, let's come here. If I take it as an 8, then I will complete that, which would give me a treasure roll and a monster roll. No matter what I'm doing, I'm probably going to lose 2 points with that monster, because unless I burn my treasure token, it'll be 8 points for the cube that I put there, which is an 8-point negative. Oh no, it's a monster roll. No, it's a monster roll. Okay. Never mind. I misremembered the rules I just read. Okay, so I think we are going to take it as an 8. Yeah, we'll take it as an 8. Without having to incur any hit point damage, we're going to take it as an 8. We're going to go here. We're going to roll twice on the blue die. The first one is the monster roll. The second one is the treasure roll. Four. Okay, so it's 4. So -4 plus 3. So I'd be at a -1. I could burn the reroll on a 3, but I think I like the -1. I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm all right with that. So we're going to take this from a 36 to a 35. Okay, now to do that, that was the desert. So we're going to go over here, start a new route out of here to the desert. Not great, but it's what needed to happen with the dice that I had, and I'm fine with it. No. 7 again. What is with me in 7s lately? I have got to get out of this somehow. Well, I can't use the merchant now. I can't even use it as an 8 at the merchant. Can't use it as an 8 for the guide. Can't use it as a 7 for the guide. Can't use it as a 5. The adventurer needs at least a 9. Can't use that. I could use it as a 7 for the coachman. Grasslands. I have no place where I could do grasslands or mountains right now. Even if I wanted to. That's not true. I guess technically I could branch off of here down to the mountains for no reason at all other than to not use a miss. I might just. And then I take 7 points of monster deduction for the coachman, but I'd be past that then, at least at that point. I hate spinning my wheels, but I don't want to mark a miss. It's technically a valid move. So I'm going to take it as a 7, and I'm going to lose 7 points. So I go from that's 28. Okay. Cool. Not cool, but it is what it is. I get to score again with the coachman in a minute, though. So I'll probably get those 7 back at least. Okay, so that gives me mountains. So on the map, we're going to come down here just to use the hexes available to me. I've got to get a better roll here. But I'm not out. I'm not out yet. It's not over yet. No, not by a long shot. Seven again. But I got 3. Dice are broken. I could sail. There is the ability to sail. So I could take that. I don't want to take a hit point just to sail, though. I'd like to use it as a 7 if I could. I could just use the coachman as a 7 and do it again. Pop, pop. But I'd be out of mountain spaces at that point. I'm kind of using up whatever I can. Yeah, I think that's the thing to do, though. Let's get our 7 points back. We'll come over there. We'll use the coachman at 7. So we'll get our 7. We're back to 35. Technically, I could go this way onto grassland, but that would waste this token, this shield token. I'd rather not do that. So I'm going to spend it, just waste it on a mountain. Uh-huh. I don't like it, but I'm just treading water on these rolls for a minute. Eight. Or 2-2. Yet again, I am getting screwed here. I need to roll higher, and I'm out of towns. I don't see how I handle this any other way. If I take the hit point, I can sail. I can only get to do that. I can only do that one time, though. I'd love to be able to use this as a, well, it's an 8, so I can't, no, I still can't do it as an 8. I could take it as a 4. Yeah, I could take it as a 4. Take a hit point loss. Take it as a 4 with the merchant. And cross that desert one step. And then I can put it as a 4 here.
What did he say?
Only when making treasure rolls. And I'm not making a treasure roll there. I'll take it as a 4. I'm going to go from 13 down to 12. We're taking it as a 4. We're going to go there. Okay, so as a desert, then we'll make one step closer to the shield token. And it's not null progress. Like, even if I do this, I can continue on this way and sail, or I can sail around the horn. This tavern doesn't help me, but like, or whatever, right? There's always options to use that route. It's not a dead route. Far from it, actually. Okay. One step away from another shield token. Not bad as we start to deal with more monsters. Finally, a frickin' 9. We're using the adventurer. Holy crap. Okay. So, first things first. We go up to a 9, and we summit the second peak. We take 9 point loss, so 22. Let's see. 30, so 9 points is 35 to 26. Yeah, that's right. Okay. But we summit the mountain, finally. Now we can move down that number. Okay. And now we can finally use the jungle. Now, the hard question is, which jungle do we want to use? Do we want to go here to this town and get a town marker? I think that's the pragmatic choice. Because then we can at least do some dice manipulation one time. It does put us closer to this, which is 10 points, which is not nothing. I think that's probably the good route to take. Or do we come here and then we're close to that town? We're also then close to this, which is another 6 points. We could also come here. So there's some options there. I like the immediate town though, so we're going to go that route. We're going to come up to this town. And because we visited another town, we do get another town token. Nice. Tricky though. Okay, let's roll it again, finally. Good Lord, we busted through that. Took forever. Snake eyes. Oh, 3 ones, as a matter of fact. Okay. Guess we're sailing. Would be a good one to sail on too, because it would only take 2 points off, because the next sail is a monster. So we could just waste the sail. start a route out to the water for no reason at all from that town. Here's what I'm talking about. We'd have to sail out here. There's no other real sail points from where we are. Yeah, we're going to take it as a 2 because Snake Eyes means we only lose 2 points with that monster. So then we're going to come from this town out to there as a new route. Not a total waste. Okay. Thankfully, I think we're almost done sailing. In fact, we are pretty much done sailing. I would only sail one more time for the treasure. And after that, I would probably want to not use the sailor much. There's no sense in it just taking a monster for monster's sake. That's the end of her track, by the way. Right here is just a monster. So, like, you don't really want to do that just to do that. Okay. Okay, we got a 5 or we got 2 3s. We don't want to sail. We don't have to. 5, we can on the merchant use the 5 for free. And that's just, I think, what we're going to do. Yeah, I don't mind that. Yeah, okay, we'll do that. We'll take it as a 5, and we will just put it right here. All right. So on our map, we're going to go up here. We might as well just extend this route. Now we're 1 step away from 10 points by completing that set collection there. Okay, it's a 4. Oh, that's not bad. But, 4 would be a monster and a treasure. Yeah, I think that's probably the only thing to do there. Because at least it would be a 4 monster hit, and then the treasure could maybe offset it if I rolled high enough. Actually, it's not a 4 monster hit. We just roll into the monster die. Okay. Yeah, but what's the point of that? Before we do that, is there any value to that? Or is that the only option we have? I think it might be. Could take it as a 9 and move the coachman along. That would be a pretty big jump because the coachman's at 7 right now. I'd have to take a hit point drop to do it. Yeah, I think that's my better choice because at least I can then get the idol for 10 points. Yeah, okay. I'm going to take a hit point drop from down to 11. Don't like that, but it is what it is. We're going to bump the coachman up to 9. He moves over 1. And we use that to move into the mountains, which then completes our set collection there for 10 points. So we're going to score that right now. We're at 24 to 34. And I'll just quickly, for the sake of argument, remind myself that I scored that by marking off the score. Reminder on that. Okay. Not doing too shabby at the moment. Could take a hit point and traverse this peak to get to this town. Or I start out this direction and go up this way and go to the peak that way, or go around the peak that way. I don't know. The tavern doesn't entice me at all. It would just be a means to an end to get up here to these treasure tokens and shield tokens. Well, there's options at least. Let's see what we got. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Okay. A 5. Not wonderful. No, not terrible, actually. Because if I take the 5 as the merchant, then I get a double treasure and the monster. So it's a good opportunity to use that treasure die possibly and the reroll and other such sundry things. So that's an option. It's probably a pretty good option. I would get a desert, or well, desert would give me my reroll back and be one step closer to this town. If I'm looking over here, the desert, I could go up here with that move and get my reroll token back if I needed to use it, or get a second one if I don't. Be closer to this town, and also be able to sail again because I'd have access to water again, which would be good. The other option is that I could go over here on the grassland, right, and be traveling that way. As a 5, yeah, I think we're definitely going to take it as the merchant. So I think we're just going to come over here and get this shield token with that merchant. But we have to resolve the merchant first. So we're taking it as a 5. We're going to drop it in here and complete the row and the column at the same time. So 2 treasure and a monster, but we resolve the monster first. So yeah, that's also true. So we're resolving monster first. So here's the monster roll. It's a 3, not bad. Okay, we're going to leave the monster. We're not going to re-roll that monster. We might re-roll the treasure, but we're not going to re-roll the monster. Treasure 1 is a 6. Ooh, should we double it? I think we're going to double that. Let's see how we do that. I just want to make sure before I do this that I'm using these tokens the correct way. Okay, when played, they immediately acquire that. To improve a treasure roll, spend 1 token to double the score for that roll. We're doubling this. We're going to spend our treasure token, that one that we got here, that was a ×2. This is now a 12. So that was our first roll. So it's 12 plus 2. Do we re-roll? Can I re-roll that? Shield token for treasure or monster. Ooh. Do I re-roll it for treasure? Or do I re-roll it as monster? We're about to get another one. So maybe I re-roll it as treasure and try to get a few extra points. It's only 4 points though. And the monsters can be much bigger than that. So maybe I just take that. It's 12 plus 2 is 14, minus 3 would be 11 in the green. If I re-roll that, I could get that up to possibly 15. So it'd be 11 to 15 is the max. I think I'm going to keep the re-roll and use it as damage mitigation later. Or hope to use it as damage mitigation later. Don't be greedy. You're right. Okay. Don't be chicken. All right. We're going to go to 11. 11 points net. So 45. We're so close to the 50-point objective. Now, what happens? Does the game immediately end when I reach the objective? Because if I can get 5 more points real quick, I might just win. End game. Yeah, okay, it does. It just ends. I have to visit all towns. Ooh, that sucks. Oh, shit. I did not notice that. Okay, I do have to visit all towns. Yikes. Okay. So, we have to visit here and here, here, and here.
Anywhere.
So we're close to these two. We're unfortunately not close to these three, but these three are not far apart from each other. So the next opportunity to use a jungle, we should come here.
What did he say?
Because that'll get us one step closer to there. Oh, yeah, you're right. The next opportunity to use a jungle, we should go here because these three towns are near each other. So we'll get access to those three pretty readily. Here, we're not far away. We got a town here and another town here. Those aren't very far away from us there. So it looks like a lot because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to visit, but they are kind of clustered. So that's not terrible. But I have to do it in a way that means I don't hit a ton of damage along the way. We shall see. We've got to get this guide past this number 10. All right. Well, we got some work to do. It's not over yet, though. We're doing good. We're at 45 points. We've got multiple routes on the go. Feeling pretty good. Seven. Ooh, or 10. We could take the hit point and finally get the guide out of here. That would give us our... I'm going to do that. I'm totally doing that. I'm tired of this guide being at a 10. So we're taking it as a 10. The guide is a 10 or higher. We do get access to jungle. So we're going to make this... We're finally going to make this sailing from the tavern up to this hex there. In fact, it's not a line there, though, Bob. There we go. There we go. We're going to do that. Up to there. Okay, finally. Woo! Now we have some options again. Ooh. Not far from this ×2 treasure chest either. Okay, the guide becomes a lot easier after this next step. The next step is a 9 or higher. After that, it's like 3, 5, 7. So you can actually use the guide a little bit more easily now, getting past that 10. Okay. Five or a 9. 9 would let me use the guide again, and I'd take another hit point drop, but I could get through that jungle right here and get one step away from that town. Or you could use the desert with her and come up here, get close to that, and then come up to this town and then work my way down to this town. That doesn't suck. Running out of the ability to use the merchant, though, so I have to be careful with that. Because the merchant's going to be the tough one, because it's really half of my desert exploration capability. This is going to get tricky real quick. As a 5 or as a 9. I think we're going to take it as a 9 with the guide. Yep. Health down to 9. Moving into the 9 with the guide, and we are going to take it as a desert. We're going to come up there. Getting dicey now, pun intended. Oh my God. It's the same exact roll as before. So that's a 5, so technically works for the guide, but it would mean I lose 5 points because it's a monster space for the guide. You take it as a 6 instead, and still lose a point, but it would let me open a treasure chest. Don't hate that. As a 9, though, I could take it as treasure with the coachman. But do I have mountains nearby where that's a valuable thing to do? Not really. Because they're all peaks, and I need the adventurer for peaks. So I think I'm going to take it as a merchant for 9. No, it's 5. No, can't do that either. As a 6. But that means I'm going to go down in hit points again. Not loving that. I don't think there's a better choice, though. I guess I could take it as a guide 3. But I'm giving up 2 points to do it. But at least I'm not dropping hit points. Yeah. Yeah, that's the pragmatic thing to do. We're gonna give up 5 points, the monster here, so down to 40. But it does let me take that as a desert roll, which then means I come here and get another ×2 token. Not a bad thing. So we've added our little ×2 token back to the board. Only a handful of spots. So what is that? 4 more spots on the merchant. Not much left there. All right, let's see where we go. What was that for? That was for that. Okay, got it. Ooh, okay. All right, this is better. I think we might want that jungle spot. No, it's a 9. It's a 10 flat out. Let's use the coachman. Yeah. Okay. So I have a 10 is my non-damage roll. So if I do that, it would be coachman at 10, which would then give me 10 points. And that would get me closer to that town. Yeah, that's the thing to do. Taking it as a 10, so that increases the coachman to 10. I'm doing this on purpose because if I can get it to 12 before I get it over here, then it's ×2 at whatever value it is when it lands there. So I'm climbing it as we go. But it also means I'm about to take 10 points of damage in a moment. But that's all right. We get 10 points here, 40 to 50. Huzzah. So we've technically hit our requirement score, but we haven't visited all the locations yet. Back to the map. We take it as a mountain. So we go here, and now we are 1 step away from our next town. Away we go. doubles, 5 and 5. Do we have access to water? I think I should take it as a 10, though, because the coachman needs 10s. And I can get to that town. So I'd be back down to 40 points, but I'd be at that town, and I'd be one step away from double points. What's handy about the town is then I can break off and create more routes from it. The worst, though, is once I max out the coachman, I don't get to use the coachman anymore. I lose him as a companion. He's done. Similar to the merchant, I'm gonna be in dire straits if I lose 2 of my 5 companions, and really 2 of my 4 because the sailor is so limited, only good for water. All right, peace out. Thanks for joining. Get the town and branch. Yeah, I'm with you. All right. Okay, so 10 comes here. So we're using the coachman. We went here, we lose 10, so it's 10 to 4, 50 to 40. And that gets us to the town. Okay. Our second town token. We still have towns to burn, which is good. Right, reroll. Wow, it was 3 5s the last roll and 3 4s this roll. That is wild. Okay, 8s and or sailing. Sailing doesn't really help us. 8s don't help us. We could use the guide. That's an option. I think that's our only option. No, it's not true. The adventurer would help us. In fact, we need the adventurer. So let's do that. We'll take it as the adventurer. We'll do the 9. Or sorry, the 8. So we'll take the 9 down to 8 and move him down the mountain. He's one step away from more points. And we can use him as summoning the peak over here to work around this. And that does cost us a hit point, but it's okay. We're down to 8. We're now one step away from another town. All right. We do need to sail one more time to get scored points for that. But we need to sail one more time anyway in order to reach that town. So it is what it is. What it is. Right. In fact, we need to sail 2 more times if I go that way, which I'd rather not do. Yikes. I have a long road ahead of me, though. I'm going to have to sail twice. Pragmatically speaking. We'll see how we go. There's some options ahead of us. I don't ever feel like I'm out of options. I feel like I'm often constrained, but I don't feel like I'm out of options. Okay, so it's a 5 for free. Could burn a token to turn that into a 4 or a 6. 6 would be free. How many turns do I realistically have left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, maybe 16 turns. So let's count this out for a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's if everything goes exactly to plan. I could shortcut it. I have some other ways to shortcut that. If I do, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I can get it done in as early as 10 turns if all the rolling goes according to plan. And if not, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 maybe. Okay, so there's some routes. There's some ways. We're not out of it yet. It's going to be tight, but we're not out of it yet. Okay, the hidden die over there. The red die is a 6. Could take it as a 7 and use the guide. Yeah. I don't mind that. I could take it as a 7 and use the adventurer. That would be nice. Let's do that. We're going to take it as a 7. And we're going to take this 8 down to a 7, which scores us 7 points. Not bad. 40 to 47. We're now at the end of his second peak. We only have one more peak to go, and it starts with 2 damage locations, or 2 loss of point locations anyway. So you want those numbers to be as low as possible. But more importantly, we have flexibility now. We can start whatever number we want for the adventurer for the 3rd peak. That gives us this town that we've been hunting for over here. So we now have another town. We have our 3rd town token available to us now. Over here. Okay. We finally have a sailing ability right here. So at least if we got the sailor, if we roll doubles again, we could get the sailor's last move. But I don't really want to use it on anything. I'd rather use it over here. Instead of using it on this lake, I'd like to use it over here to get to this town. Because I don't want to use it a second time because the last one is a damage location. So let's roll. We're doing good though. We only need to visit 3 more towns and the game is over, assuming I can keep enough points on the board. Okay, 5, which is 3 and a 2, or take damage and use the 5. 3 and a 2. 3 and a 2. I could take it as an 8. No. I could take it as a 7. No. I could use it as a 5 and just take the guide. That wouldn't be the worst thing. The guide needs a 5 or higher. So that's jungle. That's great for me. Yeah. I like it. Or I could use it as desert. Ooh, I could use it as desert and get close to this town right here. That's the thing to do. It's only 2 steps away if I go from here to here. I'm going to use it as desert. I'm going to use it as the guide. I'm going to use it as desert, and that gets me to the ability to sail. I really don't like the idea of sailing twice, but it might be a means to an end. So let's get that shield. We're going to take it as a 5. I've moved down on the guide track to the 5 right here. And then I just go up here. And that gives me another shield token right here. Okay. More importantly, I am 2 steps away from another town. Rolling them bones. Okay. A 9. That's not bad. I can use the guide again if I want to. I can't use it at the merchant, and I can't use it at the coachman, but I could use it at the guide as a 9. I could burn, oh, this might be where I burn it for a sale, because I could burn a town token to make that 2 4s and then sail once. No, 2 5s, because then it would be worth 10 points. Yeah, that's the thing to do. Okay, so we have our town tokens. We've got 3 of them. So we're going to burn 1 and replace that with a cube. We have 2 left. We're going to take this 4 and turn it into a 10. So it's a 4 into a 5, so 2 5s. We're going to sail on that. And we're going to sail here into a point earning location. And that just takes the value, which is 10, so 10 points. 47 to 57. And back to the map, we sail with that. And we go from that location to here. 1 more sail. Hopefully a low snake eyes or something. And we will get to that town. That's very important. Okay. Not bad. Ooh, 2-2 right there. If I don't want to lose 4 points, I could lose 2 and burn a town token, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to take the 2 2s, take the hit point. Do I want it? The hit point's probably more important. We're about to get a town token anyway. Yeah. Okay, we're going to burn a town token. We're going to drop one of those 2s to a 1. Now it's 2. We're going to sail on the snake eyes. So the sail is actually taking point damage. So we're going to go there and we're going to reduce our points from 57 to 55. But that lets us sail one last time to this town right here. Okay. We now have that town, and we could, if we wanted to, branch off and do other things. But right now we're laser focused on getting those last 2 towns done as much as we can. So that's done. We can't sail anymore. The sailor is done. But that is the last time we need to sail. So that's actually perfect. All right. Roll the dice. Oh, and I get, first of all, I need to do something else. Am I out of tokens? What am I supposed to do? That's odd. How am I out of tokens? How very strange. Well, I'll use a different color to track my points, and I'll recover this token here. So we're at 55. We'll just use orange. And that will do that. And then we just gained a town token. So there's that. For now, and I'll have to see if I can recover more later. I could just take the cube off the sailor because the sailor's done. And just invalidate the sailor. So yeah, that's probably what we'll do. Okay, never mind. Anyway, 2 more towns to go. Snake Eyes, if we want to take a health hit point, or 7 if we don't. The guide is going to let me take the 7. Yeah. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take it as a 7. The guide is gonna be there, one step away from from her end of the track. And then back to the map, we're gonna take that as a desert coming off of this town here. And we need to do the guide one more time in order to get through that thicket, or we're going to have to go around it, which I'm not thrilled about. Ooh, that's not going to be good for the guide. That is a 4. 4 would be okay for the merchant, though. Isn't my idea of great, but it could work. So we would get damage. We would do a monster roll and a treasure roll if we do it that way. And we do have some rerolls that we can burn. I'm a little concerned that I ran out of tokens, so it makes me feel like I shouldn't have been playing this long or something, or I'm doing something wrong, but we'll see. Okay. Is there a way? No, there's not a way. I could burn 2 and re-roll fully, but I don't want to do that. So we'll take it as a 4. Yeah, we'll take it as a 4. I think. Yeah. All right. I think it's just the only thing to do here. Well, we need another cube. So what we'll do is we'll just mark that the sailor is done with that gray cube, just as a reminder. And then for the 4, we'll come in here like that. And then we'll roll the blue dice twice. First roll, as always, is the monster. 2, I will take it as a 2. That is fine. And then the next one is the treasure roll. 6. That's beautiful. Do I burn my treasure, my ×2 treasure on that? I think I do. Why wouldn't I? Now's the time. 12 points. So I get a net 10 points for that encounter. Right. So 55 to 65. Doing great. Okay. And that, more importantly, let us traverse the desert. Unfortunately, I needed the guide to get through the thicket, so we're gonna have to go up that way. But either way, we're getting closer to this town, if nothing else, and then we can maybe curve down and grab that one if we can get the guide this next roll. Let's see how we get on. 6 and 3 is 9. Let's take the hit point and get that done. Let's use the guide. Let's lose the hit point. So we're going to go down to 7 hit points. And we're going to go to the guide. And we're going to do our last one. And it is a 9. So we get 9 points because it's the last step in her journey. So that is 65 to 74, rather. And we can travel through the thicket, which is what we were going for before. Come down here to the thicket. Okay, we just need the merchant or the coachman to get us to that town. And then we're 1 town away, which is only 2 steps away. We might actually make this. We'll see how it goes. Not too bad. We're getting there. We're almost done. Almost got this. Okay, 5 and a 1 or 1 and a 1. So 6. 6 is perfect for the merchant. It's perfect. We get a free treasure roll. We're going to take it as a 6. I'm going to swap out these 2 tavern markers just with gray ones because they don't actually matter. And then we're going to take it as a 6, which lets us have a treasure roll for free, as well as the grassland move we need. So we will take a free treasure roll here. 2? All right, fine. 76, we don't have a reroll, so we don't have a choice. That's not true. We do have 2 rerolls. I know 2, I'm going to burn a reroll. I'm going to burn a reroll. So we go back down to 74, and whatever this is sticks. 3, oh well, that's fine. 77 was worth a shot. Okay. What am I doing? I got 1 reroll left. Not bad. It's probably rash of me, but I did get the green travel there, so we did get our second to last city or town. We'll just box that in like that. More importantly, now we can branch off if we want to. I don't. I'm laser focused on getting over here. I need coachman or merchant again. Coachman or merchant. Ooh, there's our 10 for the coachman. It could also be our 10 for the merchant. In fact, let's hold out hope that we can get the coachman at ×2. But no, we don't. No, we do want to do that. I don't know, though. It's a 10. We might just take that as a 20 and be done with it. Just to get that extra 20 points. Because what's 4 points among friends? Here's what I'm talking about. This last step in the coachman would get me there, but I need mountain. Well, I could do that. Adventurer can get me to the mountains and the jungle. Okay. I like this. So this is working. We take this as a 10, and we take a hit point down to 6. That comes over, because we have to use the red die to do that. We take it as a 10. It's now ×2, so that's 20 points. 77 to 97. Amazing. We're going to lose a lot of those, but that's okay. We only need 50 in order to win. So I can lose a lot and not even care. It's just about getting there and getting the rolls done before we run out of actions. That's the hard part. We are now done with the sailor and we are done with the coachman. We still have a couple of moves left on the merchant. We're also done with the guide. So it's really down to the merchant and the adventurer to get us home. We've only got 3 more moves to go, and those 2 people are in prime position to get us there. So here we go. Okay. So 4 is actually pretty good as the adventurer, but we need the merchant right now. So I could spend a token to drop that 3 to a 2, which would make it a 3, which would give us a treasure roll. That's the thing to do. We're going to spend that token. We're going to put that cube in here to denote that that's what we did. And we're going to drop that to a 3, to a 2. Now that is a 3. And then we will mark off. We're running out of green tokens here, so we're just going to mark that off as a treasure. It's fine. It's not as pretty as having it all be green, but it's fine. So then we roll the treasure die. There's no monster there, so we're not having to subtract anything. It's just straight points. 1. That figures. I'm going to just take it as a 1 because I don't want to re-roll. I could lose a hell of a lot more with the monster roll later. So we're at 98 points. We took that as a merchant, so we're going on grasslands. We're going from here to there. We have a jungle and we have a mountain, and then the game is over. That's the goal here. Okay. It's all you, adventurer. Let's get this done. Nice. Okay, we're going to take that as a 3. Here's how this works. Adventurer's third peak. We can start at any value and we're going to ascend. So we wanted a low roll there and we got it. We got it as a 3 and we take it as 3 points of loss because it is a monster location. So we're going to lose 3 points, 98 to 95. And more importantly, we get to cross this thicket. Oh no. Oh, that's not good. Oh, it's a thicket. Oh, hold on. No, we'll take it as a 3. We just won't take it as a 3 from the adventurer. We'll take it as a 3 here instead, and we'll use this as a desert. Because we can't cross this thicket over there. I didn't realize it was a thicket. I need the guide for thickets, and the guide is done. I can't use her anymore. So instead, we'll use the merchant to go up to the desert. And we do have a monster roll and 2 treasure rolls. Monster roll first. 3, so it's -3. +4 is a +1 net. +3 is a 4 points. Okay. I'm not going to re-roll that. 95 to 99 points. And we're going to have to walk around this thicket. Okay, now it's all adventurer all day because I need to get through this peak and then that mountain. Never mind. Slight diversion. No problem. We got it. Ooh, perfect. We're going to take that as a 2 instead. Even better. Even better. So, -2 points. Down to 97. We can go anywhere from up is here, right? So, back to the map. We're going to summit this peak. Boop. Last one more adventurer roll. Now, I might stretch this 2 rolls instead to try to get that ×2 on the way out. We'll see. Okay. I could take it as a 5, or I could take it as a 6. I think we'll just take it as a 6. It's -6 points because it's another monster location. We're up to 6. We have to get north of a 6 is the problem. I have some hit points left. I'm going to take it as a 5 instead, which seems trivial, but it's just odds. So I'm playing the odds that I'll roll higher than a 5. Rolling higher than a 6 is straight 50% odds, and I'd rather not that. So we're doing -5 points down to 92, and we're doing the last roll here, hopefully. Yeah. So that brings us to there. The last roll is down into that town. I could have gone to the town right away, but I want that ×2. That last little coup de grace ×2 here. Perfect. So what I rolled are 2 5s and a 4. I'm going to take them as 2 5s by using one of my last hit points here. I'm down to 4 hit points. It's 10. And we're going to ascend the peak for ×2 at 10. So that'll be 20 points at the last second. Where's my 10? There it is. Boom. Right. Where are you? Where are you? You can do it. I had you. There you are. 10. So 10 points ×2 is 20. 92 to 102 to 112. Okay. Yeah. 112, and then on down to the last town. And there it is. We have successfully completed all towns. We have more than 50 points. In fact, we've more than doubled the points we needed. And then what does it take for final scoring of the solo? End game. You do not score any bonuses for towns visited or your longest continuous route, nor are any collection bonuses earned. Oh, whoops. All right. Okay, so we have one collection bonus, which was 10 points, which we didn't actually get. So we'll minus that out. So that is 102 points. We didn't get any other collections done, and we're not scoring anything else. So that there was no other supplemental scoring we received other than that set collection, which we have negated. That's it. What else does scoring say? Yeah, that's all. There's no other scoring, because in the corner here, in fact, I'll even push in so you can see it a little carefully here. In this corner, when you're normally scoring, you're scoring a few things. If you used missed rolls, which I did not, yeah. So you don't have any missed rolls. You're just tracking those. Total towns, we don't score that in solo, so we skip that. Longest route, we don't score that in solo, so we skip that. Score track value, your in-game score. That was everything else we were scoring at the time. So our score track value is 102. So our total value is 102. And we used no miss rolls to get there. There it is, folks. That was a really crunchy and interesting game of A Wayfarer's Tale, The Journey Begins, Map 3. We didn't use any of our solo cards. I forgot entirely. Let's see what they would have been. I discovered 2 of them. So our first one would have been Small Meal. Filling, if not plentiful, you feel lucky to have found anything to eat at all tonight. Recover 1 spent town. So I would have gotten another town spent back, which I left the game with 1 still remaining to be used. The other one is Large Meal. Ravenous from your journey, you are grateful for the respite and the warm meal. Recover 2 spent towns. So I would have had additional flexibility had I bothered to remember to use those cards. For the record, they look like this. This is a version of a solo card, and then here's the Large Meal. And both of those just tell you to recover towns. So that's cool. I would have had more towns to spend. But as it is, even though I forgot those cards, I still managed to pull out a huge victory. I think I doubled my point value required. I visited all the towns. I almost ran out of actions. But I squeaked out a victory. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope you really enjoyed this. I certainly enjoyed it. I was surprised at how engaged I was the entire game. I think the art is, as always with Wayfarer's Tale, stunning. I think the treatment is wonderful. I honestly, tracking things with this cube, with these cubes, tracking this over here, game changer. I honestly, only using a pen on the map feels so thematically accurate. You're drawing a route on a map. It's great. That makes sense to be drawing on the map, but to not have to also be marking off a bunch of things on a score sheet and just tracking with cubes really makes the game feel like a fully fledged game. You even have bits with the town bits and stuff like that. Really just a bang up job. Highly recommend this one. I can understand why it has an 8.0 on BGG right now. If you like this kind of game, you know I do. I've done a few of these kinds of things. Wayfarer, Merchants, the Merchants game. I can't remember the title right now, but Merchants in the title. This is very similar in that regard, where you're building off of your routes and things like that. I love these kinds of route building games in solo modes, especially mixed with these kinds of like usage puzzles that we've got going on. Just so good, so crunchy. And I jumped into this game blind, not having played it, and I started playing map 3, which is one of the most difficult maps. So I feel like the entry into this isn't very hard. Map 1 is going to be much more simple and streamlined, so you won't have any trouble getting acclimated. If I can jump into map 3 without knowing much at all, you can absolutely just jump in map 1 and just go and play the solo campaign, which is eight campaign games. So there you go. That's been A Wayfarer's Tale, A Journey Begins. And thank you for joining me here on this Sunday. Join me again next week, sometime between 11 and 1 Pacific time, for something completely different. All right. Take care, everybody. And thank you again for joining me. See you again next week. Take care.